Right when you said that, I had to cough.
Of course. Ain't that always the way? All right, awesome. We are now live on Facebook. Once again, testing some new things. So thank you for bearing with us. And Quinn is going to announce today's topics. So our topic for today's live is...
Our topic for today's live is how to continue going with your New Year's resolutions, even when they start to get difficult. I know by this time of the year, most people have given up, not really even started quite yet, or are kind of getting close to wanting to give up because it's starting to get a little more difficult. So these are going to be our best tips to kind of help you keep going a little bit.
Awesome. All right, Quinn, do you want to start?
Sure. I think the thing that I use the most is telling someone what I'm trying to do. Like calling my sister and being like, this is my goal, so that I have someone who's kind of helping me be accountable. I sort of did the same thing yesterday when I went live on Instagram. I was very nervous to go, and so I told you guys I would be going live tomorrow so that I could not back out. I had to go because I told everyone that was what was going to happen. I think it kind of just helps keep you accountable, but make sure you tell someone who like you want to keep you accountable. Don't tell someone who's like going to start bothering you and making it not that fun for you.
The fine line between accountability and annoying. It's a fine line.
Yes, make sure you choose the right person.
That's awesome. Connor, what about you?
You want to shout out to the... No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, moving on.
Who are we shouting out?
Nothing. I'm just being silly.
All right.
I think keeping your own pace is important, and like readjusting if you need to. Like I think the main goal with the resolution is to like keep the resolution, but like not push yourself if it's too much. So like if you need to like slow it down a bit or like reel it back a little bit, you can still do that. Like the idea is that the resolution improves you, not that it adds more stress to your life.
That is very true.
So like if you make a resolution to run 5 miles a day and that just is really tough on your body, maybe like cut it down to 3 miles a day, or do 5 miles every other day and do a different exercise in between. Like just find, like you're allowed to adjust it a little bit if you need to.
Yeah, it's better to be flexible than to snap the second something needs to change.
Exactly, because if you just like break and then stop, it's like that's worse than cutting down. Oftentimes, unless it's like really just bad for you. But like if you like if your resolution is to like exercise every day, and then you just snap and like I think it's easier in general just to cut back a little bit. Be kind to yourself and take it easy on yourself and be understanding that like it can be hard. And just to focus on your health and mental health too. I think that's really important with resolutions. Sometimes people get fixated on it and it like becomes detrimental.
9 round, that makes me think if you snap, then you need to go take like boxing lessons or something.
Yeah, you need to like let that heat off.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think my big thing is just keep in mind why you started and where you want to go. Not from a place of like, oh, well, you have to push yourself harder, but think about what, kind of like follow the spirit of the resolution, not the letter of the law. So kind of taking in like, okay, if your goal, like one of my big goals last year was to read more. And I ended up achieving my goal of reading 1 book per week on average. But there were a couple of times that I kind of got stuck and fell behind. And I had to keep in mind, okay, the goal of this is not to zip through as many books as possible for a bragging right. The goal of this was to get back into the habit of reading for fun after I kind of took a break after having to read so much for school. And so if the letter of the resolution, if the exact wording wasn't serving that end goal of falling back in love with one of my favorite hobbies, then something needed to change. And I think that's good to keep in mind. So kind of like with Connor's example, if your goal is to get better at running, and at this point, after about 3 weeks of running however many miles every day, you're starting to get shin splints. okay, maybe it's time to like take a break, do some yoga for runners, like take a week off, because the spirit of that resolution is to improve, not to run until your body won't let you run anymore. So
That's
that's
a
my
good one.
tip. Chris, what's yours?
I'm just gonna go out of left field completely here. Don't set New Year's resolutions at all. I think it's a terrible idea. I don't set New Year's resolutions at all. I think yearly goals is a terrible idea because it's so insurmountable. I think instead pick a 6-week goal or a 12-week goal and aim for that first. And it doesn't matter when you start, whether it's the first of the month or the 12th of the month or a Thursday, it doesn't matter. Like if you decide you want to get something done, don't wait until the year starts. Like be like, if you're like, oh, I want to run a marathon, don't be like, well, it's already at the beginning of the year, so I gotta wait until next year for that to be my next annual goal. It's like, that's really dumb. Like if you want to run a marathon, okay, well, what's your average mile time in the next 8 weeks? If you're at a 12-minute mile, try to get to an 11-minute mile in 12 weeks. That's what I do. I think annual goals is a really great way to create unnecessary pressure. It's good to have long-term vision and long-term goals, but I just think short-term goal setting or like annual goal setting, it just doesn't really work for me. So that's my take.
Yeah.
Set shorter ones.
I think it varies a lot person to person, because like for me, the once a year, just taking that extra time to really intentionally evaluate, okay, where did I get this year? Where do I want to be at this time next year is helpful. But I can definitely see how, especially if it's such a tactical goal of like, I want to run a marathon. Well, if that's all the way, in December, if that's your goal, like that's really far off. And so I could see that prompting people to either not actually start working toward that goal right away because, well, you have an entire year, don't worry about it. Or feeling like, okay, well, I have to, start on Monday, start on, the first of the month, start on the first of the year. And I do think there's definitely some kind of limiting beliefs around that is the only opportunity. Like it has to start then. Like you can't be reevaluating the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the first of the year is just so arbitrary. I try to review at least every 12 weeks and sometimes more often than that. Because really, 52 weeks is either too much time or not enough. Like that's always how it works for me. Because I'll be like, oh, well, Content Cucumber, we're gonna have 1 million customers. It's like, okay, well, let's focus on the next 12 weeks. Like, don't think about that. Like, let's set some realistic 12-week goals as opposed to some unrealistic, lofty year-long goals. And then like by the time the year end comes around, we'll either be so beyond the goal or so far behind the goal. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just bad at setting goals on an annual scale, but it's like we'll either have completely destroyed our goal to the point where it was like not even a good goal, or we'll be so far away that we were just unrealistic. Whereas like the 8 to 12 week goal setting tends to be like more achievable for me.
Yeah, 12 weeks is a solid idea. I think that, again, kind of back to that, it depends on the person thing though. There are definitely people who, if they don't have set times to reflect, they'll do it so often that it's unproductive. Like if you're reflecting on your long-term goals every single week, and go, okay, you're probably not going to be making a massive amount of progress most of the time every single week because it takes time. So having those set benchmarks of, reviewing it once a month or even once a quarter, depending on the goals, and then setting once a year can be helpful to kind of limit that and push people to action.
It's important to know
Yeah.
who you are and how you set goals, which way works best for you.
Exactly. Like it's kind of making me think of a conversation that we had about planners. Like I think we all have preferences as far as planners. Like I have one that I really love and I've tried a bunch of other ones and I just always end up coming back to this one. And some people want a planner where there is water tracking and meal planning and a checklist and a calendar and gratitudes and like there's every single option. And other people want a planner that's super simple where there's just a few lines every day where they can like write in appointments. And a lot of people want a specific section in between. And it's not that any one of those planners is inherently better or worse than the others. It's just which one are you going to stick to and which one's going to work best for you. And it sounds like, Chris, you're definitely on top of what works best for you. You're like, I know exactly how I work and how I work my best. And, you know, I think I'm still trying to figure it out to an extent, trying different things. I'm definitely in a kind of experimental phase. But the most important thing is really just knowing yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a podcast of the Bigger Pockets podcast called where this guy talks about the 12-week year. Actually, he wrote a book about it called The 12-Week Year, and that's a super good concept. I haven't actually read that book. I've just listened to the dude talk about that idea. But yeah, the 12-week year is a good one. If you setting smaller goals over an annual period throughout the year, you'll get more done than you ever will setting one annual goal.
Yeah, let's link to maybe a podcast about that in the comments if anyone wants to check it out.
Well, the book is just called The 12-Week Year. I don't know where that podcast is. I have to dig it out. But I heard him speaking. There's another one called Willpower Works. Willpower doesn't work, and that's kind of a similar thing. It's like if you don't want to eat candy, then don't have candy in your house, type thing. Like it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I find it fascinating to think about trying to break it down. There's nothing wrong with annual planning. I mean, I do some annual planning. It's just usually annual planning is all revenue focused. And what we do is we're like, okay, well, once we beat this target or we're on track to beat this target, we need to reframe that goal. Because we'll set a realistic goal and then we'll probably destroy it, which is great because we're growing fast, but then we need to reframe it. So the same goal we set in January will not be the same goal we end in December.
Yeah, I think that's also important to like, if you want momentum to something, it's like once you beat a goal, like you're allowed to keep going, stopping it depending on what it is. Like if it's a business, obviously, if it's revenue, if you beat the goal, then you want to reframe it, readjust and make a new goal. But if it's something more short term, like say like I want to like, I don't know, like clean out my garage because it's a mess. It's like once you beat the goal, like you can take a pause for a minute. You know how to set a new goal per se, especially if cleaning is something that you struggle with. So I think the most important thing is like understanding how you work and like what's going to benefit you and the people around you the most. It's very case by case.
Yeah. I do like that idea though, because I do think there's definitely a tendency to be like, all right, well, I reached my goal. Now I can, like grab my margarita and sit back in the sun. Yeah. But there's always something new to strive for. And that doesn't mean there's not space for rest in between goals or, some celebration, like go get some cake or something. But the ability to say, okay, I hit that goal. What's next? How can I build off of this momentum I'm started? So like if your goal is cleaning out the garage and you do that, maybe you take a weekend off to celebrate that, rest, binge watch a favorite show, whatever. And the next weekend you're like, all right, time to tackle that linen closet and, see where else you can build off that momentum to continue improving your life.
Yeah, and reward yourself. It's really important to reward yourself. And another thing that I'm actually working on now is systematizing reward systems, which I know sounds super nerdy, but I don't really care. I have an 8-week target with 4 different goals across 4 different areas of my life. And if I score less than 50 points, which is out of 100, then, I'll have to I'll be punished in some way. Like I'll have to do some work that I don't necessarily want to do. But if I get more than 50 points, then I get to do different things. And the higher the points, the cooler the thing I get to do. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So
That's
50,
interesting.
So 50 to 60, I get a staycation. And this is in the fall. So this is far off, pandemic is over. So 50 to 60 is staycation. 60 to 70 is, I think Colorado, and 70 to 80 is somewhere else. And then, it's just the idea is the higher I score, the cooler the thing I get to do is. That way I incentivize myself. So anyway, I'll tell you how it works because I've never done that before.
Yeah, that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea of systematizing rewards because I think that something that I definitely get stuck in pretty quickly is decision fatigue, where I'll like set a super quick goal, but then all the little decisions along the way just kind of wear you down. And so systematizing something, so at the end of it, you're not like, okay, cool, I achieved this. Now, how do I reward myself? Well, what do I want? And then like getting stuck in, like an Amazon rabbit hole where you just keep finding things.
Or worse, rewarding yourself when you didn't accomplish the goal, which is something I did a lot. Because I would schedule the vacation, like, okay, it's December, I'm about to do a 12-week challenge. Well, you have to schedule your plane ticket now for March. Like, you can't wait, like, because if you can't schedule the plane ticket the day before you leave. So what I'm doing now is delayed gratification, where it's like, if I accomplish this goal, I'm basically paying for my September vacation. And then the next one will be for my, spring of next year. And then the one after that will be summer, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's why I'm doing it so far in advance, because I'll still have that advanced planning that you need to do a vacation. So anyway, I don't know. I just kind of thought that through, because it's like, whenever I use vacation as a reward, I take the vacation no matter how well I do, because I have to plan it. Like, you have to book your tickets. Like,
make sure there's a place to stay when you get where you're going.
right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, booking a plane trip 12 weeks in advance is like, $100 a ticket, whereas booking it 2 days before is like $1,000 a ticket. So it's a big difference. It's like 10 times the price to try and plan at the last second.
Sure.
Anyway, that's something I'm working on. So I'll report back in March on how that went.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I feel
I think
like
that's a good idea.
my planned rewards is much shorter term. Like, if I hit this certain goalpost, then I'll add my favorite snack to our grocery pickup. Like, it's much shorter term. But I like the idea of applying it on a larger scale. That's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, I think.
So I'll let you know how it goes, though. I mean, that's brand new. I've never done that before, but I've definitely heard.
I mean, yeah,
And another-
humans are like dogs. Like, it's like if you expect them to behave a certain way, you kind of have to train their mind to get a treat from the behavior.
That's the quote of the day. Humans are like dogs.
We really are. We really are.
No, I know.
That's true.
It's the Pavlovian system.
It's very Pavlovian. And it's like we're just conditioned to be that way. So it's like feel free to treat yourself if you do well in something. It's going to reward you later too.
Yeah. And having the reward is really smart, because like if you
Yeah.
did it just for yourself, you probably would have done it already.
Mhm.
So like you kind of need that extra incentive.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like I ate healthy all this week. It's like, okay, like have a Reese's cup, like fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see. I don't know what my punishments are going to be. That's one that we haven't figured out yet.
Not allowed to sleep for 48 hours. Keep yourself awake for 48 hours as punishment.
That sounds like
just sounds
it was bad
terrible.
for everyone involved.
It sounds
That sounds like
terrible.
no. I was thinking like, if you get 0 to 20, you have to like voluntarily do the highway cleanup with the prison crew. Like, you have to go out with the orange jacket and do it with the prison crew. Like, picking up the garbage. You know how they do that? Like,
Yeah.
you voluntarily do that.
Or
Just
like
basically how community
adopt a
service
highway.
works.
Yeah, like you're helping the community still.
Mhm.
So it's
I
like
like
it's good, but it's something that definitely you're not like jumping
Yeah,
up and
it's-
down to do.
Yeah, like
I like that concept though of the punishments, quote unquote, still being like volunteering. So you don't like you're not like I've seen some people where they'll be like, if I don't hit this goal, I have to like donate to this charity that I hate, which like seems, I mean, motivating, but not in a very fun way. I like the idea of it being volunteering, where it's like it's still something you can be proud of and be glad that you did, but like it's not something where you're like, oh goody, today I get to do this.
yeah. Yeah, I think something beneficial as a punishment.
Yeah, I mean think about it. I mean, like if you're between like going to Colorado and hiking and and having fun in Colorado and doing Colorado things versus like picking up trash next to the highway, like I would much rather go to Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think most people would agree with that. Most people. I'm sure some people just love picking up trash, but
All right. Well,
Well-
on that happy note, I know we got to get going pretty quick. Are there any final thoughts we would like to leave our audience with?
The best goal setting people to listen to, that 12-week year thing. Let me find that podcast real quick. That 12-week year on Bigger Pockets. If you're into goal setting, that one is a really good one.
Solid.
And I like the Bigger Pockets people.
We will make sure we drop a link to that below.
Brian Moran, 12-week year and the danger of long-term goal setting, podcast 427 on the Bigger Pockets podcast.
All
And I'll
right.
link that here. That is a good one to check out.
Solid. All right. On that happy note, know thyself, know what goal setting works best for you. Make sure you set up rewards in advance and stick with the spirit of your goal, even if the original plan for it doesn't work out. Did I cover all the bases there?
Yeah, it seems about right.
All
I think
right.
so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we will see you again, same time, same place next week.
See ya.